So this is part C of today's KhoodeelaarTV channel, being broadcast online on the internet only from London in the UK with quotation marks. And this part is continuing the diagnosis, the world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street, which is the newspapers published from London and misleadingly called the national dailies. They're dailies based mainly in London, corresponding to the political kind of capital, which is the metropolitan city of London, where the city of Westminster is used in two different ways. One as the local borough council, Westminster, and the other is the Palace of Westminster, which means that the center of the parliament is the Palace of Westminster. The center of government is called number 10 Downing Street or Downing Street. So when we look at the contents and the role and the narrative represented by these papers collectively called Fleet Street, we don't represent, or we don't look at the same time at the papers that are supposed to be representative of these people of Scotland, in Scotland or the people of Northern Ireland, or indeed the people of Wales. It's important to make the distinction between the peoples of Wales and the people of Northern Ireland and the people of Scotland. Now, there is another nation or nationality called Cornwall. But the Cornwall has been so completely crushed under English kind of oppressive assumption and appropriation that no one mentions Cornwall anymore. But we do. And so therefore what we are saying about the Fleet Street papers is that the newspapers collectively known as Fleet Street do not represent Cornwall and do not represent Wales, they do not represent Scotland, and they most certainly don't represent the people of Northern Ireland. Now, earlier today, a few hours ago, we noticed an internet appearance of a reference to Bernadette Devlin. Now, Bernadette Devlin was, until 2015 UK general election, the youngest female elected member of parliament in the Palace of Westminster. She wasn't continuously an MP, but she had the record of being the youngest female member of parliament from the 1960s until 2015. And 2015 was the election which saw the election from Scotland of an SNP candidate, a 20-year-old person called Mary Black. So Mary Black has been now the youngest elected female member of parliament elected to Westminster. And she has broken the record, very long record, of Bernadette Devlin. Now, Bernadette Devlin hit the headlines in the late 1960s. She is now kind of known as Bernadette Devlin McCluskey or Bernadette McCluskey. And earlier this afternoon, we noticed a tweet that was posted about the artist known as the taxi driver, or the taxi driver known as the artist, is Mark, somebody called Chunky Mark. And he had a picture of a woman sitting to his next left, and he was driving, or he was in the driving seat. And his tweet I think we should read this one just to get the factual contents absolutely on the record. So his artist taxi driver, and his latest tweet 47 minutes ago says that found this old photo of my mom and granddad and colorized it Tyrone 1950s, Happy St. Patrick's Day. Now that's artist taxi driver whose Twitter handle is Chunky Mark. And he posted the tweet or tweeted the unique thing. We shall come to that. And he said that he said that I'd picked Barney up at Heathrow Airport and driving out the car park, I said, I'm gonna call my mom. So he rang his mom and then quote, Mom, you are on the loudspeaker. Guess who I've got in the taxi? Who? She says. Bernadette Devlin, says Mark. Who is he? She says. And there is this picture of Bernadette Devlin sitting to the left of Chunky Mark in the car. So we tweeted that this is too cool to not retweet and recite Mark. And we did that and then added our word brilliant. Then we looked up and checked Bernadette Devlin generally in the usual way that we fact check. And then was this entry on the Wikipedia about Bernadette Devlin. Now this is, on many levels, it is unique. The contents of this particular part of the entry, and we retrieved this as 1458 hours, let's say. Is it 1458 hours, so just before 3 o'clock. And this is 1636, so just over 2 hours ago. Just under 2 hours ago, sorry. Anyway, so we retrieved this one from the internet and we read it absolutely as the entry reads. She made an appearance on the Johnny Carson show in the USA. She was traveling in the USA. At a number of speaking events, she made parallels between the struggle in the US by African Americans seeking civil rights and Catholics in Northern Ireland, sometimes to the embarrassment of her audience. During an event in Philadelphia, she had to goad an African American singer to sing We Shall Overcome to the Irish American audience, many of whom refused to stand for the song. And it says in Detroit, she refused to take the stage until African Americans who were barred from the event were allowed in. In New York, Mayor John Lindsay arranged a ceremony to present Devlin with a key to the city of New York. Devlin, frustrated with conservative elements of the Irish American community, left the tour to return to Northern Ireland. And believing the freedom of New York should go to the American poor, sent Eamon McCann to gift the key on her behalf to a representative from the Harlem chapter of the Black Panther Party. So we posted that with the following statement. The Khoodeelaar campaign thanking Bernadette Devlin in recognition of your stand during your USA tour. Bernadette, we thank you and wish you the best. Now, that is so astonishing. Nobody else has ever done that. No person from Ireland, that is, no white person from the UK, no white person from Western Europe. And yet, what she did wasn't something that needed the knowledge or capacity or insights of a very high kind of quality or level. It was obvious. It was obvious, and it is obvious, and I shall come to a bit more of this today because of the other kind of information that we have gathered in the main kind of media outlets during the last few hours. That the black people, that is African Americans, seeking civil liberties, exactly as the Irish people were doing against the British occupation and imperialism. And that both the African American people were subject to and exploited by and oppressed by and denied by colonialism, British colonialism, as were the Irish. And why did it take only Bernadette Devlin to do what she has done, according to this brief summary, of course? Now, this reminds me of a row that I had with a white man, of course, an Irish man, who completely misunderstood my reference to Jeremy Corbyn and his kind of fictitious votes-based attitude towards the Irish community in his constituency, similar to Corbyn's similarly fictitious attitude of showing respect to the Muslims and the other religious groups in the constituency. When I said that to this man, who I didn't know where he came from or whatever, I was standing outside. Well, I was sitting on a bench, one of those 2 or 3 benches, I think, outside the Royal Court of Justice in the Strand. And this conversation began by either of us referring to Corbyn's then challenge that was going on in the court inside against the then Labour Party executive or administration. This was during the first year of Corbyn's leadership campaign or tussle. And Corbyn's challenge was about something that the people in power, in control of the Labour Party HQ had blocked. And my observation, as is the case, was that Corbyn needs to be seen in proportion to his actual real behavior. Words to this effect. And I said Corbyn was not really genuine. As genuine as he should be about the rights of the people of Ireland. And I said that he was only in good relations, or he was maintaining that kind of relationship with the people, Northern Irish people or Catholic people or the church in Islington, because he thought that that would be electorally useful to him. And I went on to add words to the effect, not necessarily in the same length, that he did this about other religious groups as well. And out of this blue, this guy completely revolted. And he accused me of accusing the Irish people of being stupid. How did this maths work? How did he conclude that that amounted to me saying anything about the Irish people? I didn't. Everything I said was about Corbyn, not about the Irish people. And the fact that this person thought that I was saying or I was meaning that the Irish people in the constituency were stupid. I mean, how did this work? I still can't understand how he concluded that. I shall continue with this particular example in due course later. But essentially, this guy completely misunderstood me. And he said then that I was treating the Irish, I was being racist against the Irish people. Now, if I was being racist against the Irish people, then I was also being racist against myself. Because all the people in Islington that I know of or know about, they include a substantial number of people from Bangladesh or significant numbers of people from Bangladesh who would be, in terms of ethnicity and in terms of general kind of intelligence or whatever, would be comparable generally, not empirically, absolutely, exactly, personally. That could be related to me, let's say, in terms of this background. So if I said that Corbyn was cultivating these people just to get votes, would that be me saying that I was an idiot, and I was being racist against my fellow kind of Bangladeshis or people who came from the same similar background? It wouldn't. It couldn't. So that kind of rank idiocy and stupidity has always been noticed among some people because they are the racist ones. And what Bernadette Devlin did was witness the racism of the Catholic Church and the population there in the USA. And she repeatedly condemned them and repeatedly had arguments with them, so much so that in the last one, she left the USA without attending that particular key giving ceremony or whatever, and sent somebody else, McCain, to give this key to the particular chapter of the Black Panther Party that was catering for the poorest of the community. I mean, I was wrongly accused when I was taking a picture at the Toynbee Hall during a speech that Ian Mikado was making, and I was taking a picture of the audience. And one of the people who kind of noticed that I was taking the picture of the crowd or the section of the crowd that included him immediately accused me of targeting him. I didn't even know the person. And anybody in the audience I would not know, because these are people from mixed background, and I was just there for a few minutes to take a few pictures and go. But he engaged me in an exchange which he started by accusing me of targeting him. I had not. I have never targeted anyone in that way that is, I mean, mysterious. If I was taking pictures of, let's say, somebody I know or somebody I would know about, let's say Ken Lying Still Livingston, then of course I'd focus on him. That would be open and absolutely correct targeting. In that sense, I was going to get the picture right, but there is no other element. So people with idiotic outlook and attitude, racist outlook and attitude, always feel nervous. And some of the people who have felt nervous have turned out to be, on investigation, people who need to feel nervous because they have got in their records, in their life, in their activities, in their affiliations, corruption, criminality, and dubious behavior. I haven't got any of those. I'm opposed to corruption, criminality. I'm an upholder of transparency. And I have been. And the only reason I ever take pictures is for evidence. Straightforward. Any moron, criminal who disagrees with me must remember that I have been very consistent for a very long time politically. It is not done easily. It is only possible to do if you have got the character and the morality and the ethics and the record. So when I read this entry on the Wikipedia, unlikely place about Bernadette Devlin and her principles of solidarity with the people of African American backgrounds, I was totally, absolutely stunned that this is the only entry about an Irish politician, only Irish politician. Now, going back to the days when Bernadette Devlin first became an MP, I remember, because she hit the headings, if you like, if not all the headlines, right across the world, at least in the English language kind of publications that I read about her. Well, obviously, I don't have the kind of exact quotes or memorize. I didn't memorize anything. But the name Bernadette Devlin stuck forever. And it was, of course, she was the youngest one that was part of the kind of reference. And I think it was also the fact that she was described as being outspoken, straightforward. And that was among the kind of attributes that were mentioned in the reports that I read. I was not in the UK, I was in another country. And so today, it has been a historic day for me in terms of research, in terms of investigation, and in terms of the genuine kind of international humanitarian character that Bernadette Devlin has had. And I didn't read any of this before anywhere. Two reasons. One was that Bernadette Devlin, I think, left active politics for quite a while. And secondly, in the Fleet Street papers, there would be no actual kind of show of respect for Bernadette Devlin. And most certainly there would not be. Fleet Street papers would never give her any positive kudos or credit for showing such absolutely stunning solidarity with the people of African American people's struggle for civil rights and human rights. African American, there is another kind of person in the USA now who is half African Caribbean and half white descent, that is Meghan Markle. Now, while on this side of the Atlantic, today's paper, that is Wednesday, 17th of March 2021, they're going on against her, including today's Daily Mail, devoting a very chunky piece against Meghan Markle. So this is like showing that she is the lowest of the low. I mean, that is the thing that they have been saying about her. That is why I am determined to stand up for her rights. Because of that, I have no connection with Meghan Markle, and I don't need to have a connection. The evidence of her being targeted by these racists, the evidence is right in front of everyone. So I am only acting in response to the evidence that is widely, universally available. Now, on this side of the Atlantic, the racists, the anti-Meghan Markle and Harry brigade, are dismissing them. Well, they're definitely sinking Meghan Markle out of any mention. I mean, the way they're referring to the conversation that Harry has had with Charlie Bryan. They don't mention Meghan in that as part of the conversation. So they're kind of fantasizing that Meghan Markle would just disappear from the kind of public view. But they are keeping her in that by targeting Harry and by direct implication blaming her for Harry's kind of exiting from the royal family. Well, that is the lowest of the low position that the Daily Mail today has assigned to Meghan Markle today, Wednesday, 17th of March. Well, on the other hand, on the other side of the Atlantic, Meghan Markle is being kind of, her image is being referred to and reported as being related to the next American presidential election as a candidate. Now, this gulf cannot be measured, not even by the gulf of the Atlantic, the width of the Atlantic. I mean, on the one hand, she is finished, and on the other, she is likely to be a candidate for the highest elected office in the USA. And Trump is renewing his resolution that he would support any racist against Meghan Markle. And that even if he otherwise wouldn't have run, that is today's line, he may change it tomorrow. Even if he went to seek election to the office again, he would do that enthusiastically just to make it very hard for Meghan Markle if she were the candidate on the other side. I mean, you cannot raise the stakes any higher at this early stage. And the fact that they are doing this kind of thing to Meghan's image and distorting Meghan's kind of mind and mentality and attitude and outlook in the way that they're doing confirms the racists are not only not going to give up, racists are on the kind of attack. And the lines that the Fleet Street papers are inventing to give any kind of excuse and pretext to Piers Morgan to come across as respectable, dignified, authentic, reliable, honest, generous, and kind of truthful as against the unbelievable Meghan Markle. I mean, that kind of prolific, persistent promotion of Piers Morgan by the racists in Fleet Street is unprecedented. Because Morgan has been, in the main, in Fleet Street, Morgan has been discredited, especially after his being sacked by the Daily Mirror group, following the discovery of the fact that he had invented some quotes. So Morgan has been not enjoying a very high kind of esteem among his so-called fellow Fleet Street journalists, so-called. But the fact that he joined the racists and started defaming Meghan Markle after this interview has completely rehabilitated Piers Morgan as a racist. And he has joined all the racists openly who are embarked on attacking Meghan Markle. And they've been attacking her for the last 2 weeks, just since before the interview with Oprah Winfrey was about to be aired. And the relationship between the Fleet Street racists and the ordinary general kind of population or general public kind of scene in the USA in the context of Meghan Markle, this relationship is not going to end with Fleet Street winning the kind of better. Because as anyone watching this would know, in the past we have said correctly that they were saying, the Fleet Street papers, the racists were saying, that Brenda, also known as Queen Elizabeth II, had let it be known that she wasn't going to even watch that interview, suggesting that not only the person but the actual contents of the interview as well as the presenter, Oprah Winfrey, were beneath the acceptable level, acceptable to the Queen or the royal family or the Fleet Street. Right? That is what they said. And all of them said that Brenda was not going to even watch it. And then what happened? As soon as it got watched and it got reported, the contents got reported, Brenda immediately issued a thing saying that she was concerned about the allegation about racism. On the one hand, she knew that it was absolutely awful, absolutely rubbishy thing, not even worth watching. And then she says, something contained in that interview, she says immediately, she's concerned. Now that shows the moral kind of height. The Brenda actually fell quite a few stairs below the standard by coming across, having issued that kind of ridiculously unacceptable and pathetic statement, making that worse by showing concern the following day. Think about this, anyone watching this. You will not find this diagnosis anywhere. And you will not find that diagnosis in Fleet Street, online, on the internet, or on television, or on radio, anywhere in the UK. You won't find this anywhere in the USA in this way. And you most certainly will not find it anywhere else. So this is why we assert and we insist on asserting that this is world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street. And the only purpose is to tell the truth, to bring light into darkness and tell people the truth. Because truth is the most difficult thing to get hold of in a world populated by very highly schooled liars. Liars that have got certificates from the most prestigious so-called schools, Oxbridge, Harvard, MIT, and the rest of it. And the liars are peddling lies and making the lives of ordinary people, the majority, the many, as difficult as they can make it. And there is no accountability, there is no transparency, there is no reference to morality, there is no reference to ethics or accountability or democracy or universality. And our campaign is aimed to fill the gaps that those lacks, those emptiness actually represent and have left behind and are leaving behind. And we shall talk more about all these issues later. And now we go back to the item in the Financial Times on page 23. Financial Times 23, and it's a piece written by, we shall find who wrote this. It's page 23 of the Financial Times of Wednesday, 17th of March 2021. And the item is written by a woman whose name appears to be Sarah O'Connor, and a man, another woman, Judith Evans. So Sarah O'Connor and Judith Evans have jointly written this piece, which the Financial Times on page 23 calls Big Read, FT Big Read, Brexit and UK employment. Let's say first of all that the topic, let's read the topic first, and then we can go back to diagnosing and denouncing the Financial Times. A pilot project for seasonal workers is intended to alleviate labor shortages caused by the end of freedom of movement. They're talking about the European Union. But employers are setting demanding targets for the low-paid migrants on this scheme. Now, this is a whole page. This is the big read, so it's a whole page of the kind of broadsheet size Financial Times. Okay, it's still broadsheet, not tabular size. So it's a big kind of piece, the whole piece, the whole page of the Financial Times given to this big read. And it is talking about migrant workers. And it's talking about the fact, the reality that most businesses in the UK, which has been out of the European Union only 2 months, most businesses are complaining that they can't find British-born, indigenous, gullible 52%, Little Englanders, any of those. They can't find any of them to work on the farms and on the small kind of shops and so forth. That's what the Financial Times piece is about. That is on the one hand. And on the other hand, they're saying that this is the migrant, not just the British-born kind of gullibles and the indigenous, that is Anglo-Saxon. Let's put it this way, mainly Anglo-Saxon. We shall come to the kind of detailed description, which includes others as well in later parts. But essentially, what they are admitting is that far from taking back control of the economy, of society, of factories and everything else, the Brexiteers, wherever they are, whether they are part of the government or they are members of parliament or they are just outside among the kind of 52% of the majority of whom are morons, but chanted the slogan. They chanted the slogan furiously that they will get back control, and otherwise there will be trouble. If Brexit was delayed or obstructed, they said there will be trouble. Now, in addition to the Financial Times admitting or reporting the admission that the gullibles, the 52%, and the Brexiteers are refusing to work. If they refuse to work on the fields, in the factories, and in the various other fields that are absolutely the foundation of the economy moving, then not only are they not aware of what control means, they've already lost their life in terms of the ability to think. They've already gone morose, become morbid, and they are not. They're not breathing, let's say. That's what this whole page piece is about. Where this Financial Times, these two writers, Sarah O'Connor and Judith Evans, make the serious mistake, which is a typical Fleet Street mistake. They don't say the things that I'm saying. That is to say, the Brexiteers misdelivered and mispromised and lied to people. That's not what they're saying. They're meandering. The Fleet Street kind of mode of denial is meandering, just going round, and not hitting the target of the actual analysis. That's what I'm complaining about this long read. It is a long read and it contains hundreds of references to the various failings that should be laid at the door only of the Brexiteering liars and only at the doors of the lying Boris Johnson and the lying Michael Gove and the lying Jacob Rees-Mogg. The Financial Times is not doing that. And as we have been saying about the so-called campaigners against the high-speed railway, HS2, you can complain, you can make a list of the various things that are going wrong all the time and always, yeah? Like today, they have been kind of tweeting all kinds of things, including an objection or refusal by the Buckingham Council or something, or a local council like Buckingham, I think, but we can check that and update on the actual name. Even Buckingham Council or a similar council in a similar area affected by the HS2 can make a kind of decision rejecting a particular application for a covering a particular stretch of land. But that won't stop HS2. That is the point. We stopped Crossrail from getting the hole dug in the middle of Brick Lane, not by complaining. I organized the campaign, I conducted the campaign, and I know every aspect of the campaign that we did. We got onto targeting the very careers of some of the chosen criminals who we targeted, knowing that if we target and sank them, they will do their best. They will have to do their human best to tell their masters and colluders in the main Crossrail project to stop the whole plot. That is exactly what happened. Have you got that, what we said? You target the government in stopping, to stop the HS2. The only way that can be stopped is by government ministers and members of parliament along the way in the constituencies that are kind of within the route, the HS2 route. Campaigners have no option but to challenge every single one of those MPs and ensure that every single one of these MPs is sunk. That is to say, they have defeated the election. And that every single councillor, every single other person connected with Crossrail, HS2, should be targeted. And the targeting must be about them, these individuals, being made to lose what matters to them most in terms of politics. We're not ever advocating anything illegal or unlawful in the sense of violating people's human rights, etc., or safety. What we are saying, in career terms, in political terms, the incumbents must be sunk. The incumbents must be sunk in a way, in a comprehensive way, in a total way, until they are compelled to do their utmost to stop the HS2. That hasn't happened. That is not happening. And because that is not happening, HS2 will not be stopped, not because it is good, not because it is something that should be wasted money or should be used as a kind of a vehicle for robbery of billions of pounds, hundreds of billions of pounds by the big criminals that are aligned with the Conservative Party. So we said to them, the HS2 people, or the people complaining against HS2, claiming to campaign against HS2, do as we have done. And this is an updated version I've just articulated. And the same advice applied to the Heathrow third terminal runway. We said, sink them. Sink the MPs in the west of London constituencies that are around Heathrow. But they're not taking any advice from us. The campaigners are doing exactly what the campaigners so-called against HS2 are doing. What are they doing? Embarrassing and stupid, and they are being racist because ours is the highest order of campaigning strategy that will be available anywhere in the so-called democratic world in the context of environment, in the context of this kind of similar projects and kind of attacks on the environment. We say that sink the MPs in West London, sink the councillors in West London. They are not supporting the campaign to stop the runway. And these people moaned. They're moaning, still moaning, because Boris Johnson, who lied through his teeth, he said that he would put himself in front of a tractor or something in order to stop the runway. He's the one who has given the go-ahead. And they still don't learn about Boris Johnson. They still don't get him where it will hit him and sink him. They don't want to sink him. Everyone, including all the Fleet Street people, all the people in Fleet Street, and all the others who are running so-called kind of mainstream political websites, including the Huffington Post and the Politics Today, Politics blog, and some others individually named like Ian Dunt. They have completely, all of them have been stupid. As I said, the definition of stupidity is in the fact that they moan. They moan and complain about the damage that if 30 MPs were targeted, then the mere fact of their being targeted would be enough to sink their confidence. And it won't be necessary for them to practically, literally be defeated at elections whenever the elections take place. That is what happens when you actually target these careerists on the way in the kind of vicinity, in the constituencies that are directly part of the area affected by the project. And they're not doing that. So you've heard this world and we shall be taking a break here because there is this